Hello guys! Today I'm going to tell you a little story on the Lost Squadron. This was really big news to our little town in our area, and this is kind of what happened. World War II, they needed some beefing up Allied air power in England. And it had only been like 7 months since Pearl Harbor, and we were new to the war. But England was getting the crap kicked out of them and they needed fighter jets. And we had brand new ones, and we were going to send them over to help fight. Well, the fighters in the world were capable of fighting across the Atlantic. So it was a flight of 8 brand new P36s. Here's the P38 Glacier girl. And they were heading for England by way of Maine, Greenland, and Iceland, and to Scotland. And they were turned back twice by bad weather. And eventually, 2 of the planes had to be left behind because of mechanic problems. But the remaining 6 finally headed out to Greenland to Iceland on that Sunday. Once again, the weather turned bad, and they turned back. The navigator in the lead plane, a B-17, had made a mistake plotting the routes, and they missed the base in Greenland by several hundred miles. Lost in a heavy cloud and running out of fuel, the decision was made to crash land the planes in an ice cap and wait for rescue. At least one of the planes flipped over on its top when the nose wheel dug into the ice, but most of the planes landed with their gear up and suffered very little damage due to the P-38 heavily armed steel underbelly. No one was injured in this, and the crew rescued 11 days later. But with much pressure prior to the war, the squads of the planes were left behind. After the war was over, and several attempts were made to locate and rescue the planes without any success. In fact, from 1977 to 1987, no less than 11 attempts were made. In May 1992, friends of ours, and we all went to school with these guys, but now Roy the Dad Schaffner expedition arrived with Super Gopher 3, a unit, a 4-foot wide hot water boring tool, hoed down through 268 feet of ice at the rate of 4 feet per hour. Okay, using the hot water and blasting tools and ice caving were hollowed out around the plane, and work was begun disassembling her and hauling the parts up through the shaft. It took 3 months, and the damage was considerable more extensive than they had thought it would be. Hundreds of companies and thousands of people became involved. In restoring the rescue P-38, now dubbed Glacier Girl. Despite the massive effort, it would take nearly 11 years to complete the project. On October 26, 2002, in front of a crowd, and that was us, of tens and thousands who came to watch history being made, Glacier Girl lifted from Middlesbrough Airport and took to the sky once again for the first time in 60 years. Nowadays, Glacier Girl travels to air shows around the country and is displayed the rest of the time in Middlesbrough in the same hangar where the reconstruction took place. Now converted into a small museum, the museum is small but free and fascinating. You can get a close-up look at the Glacier Girl, see films about her rescue and restoration, and usually even talk to one of the recruiters of the museum who were members of the rescue and restoring team. Hello guys! Today's going to be a little bit different story. I got a little story to tell you about our area and one of the big things that had happened years ago, and it was very, very interesting. And I remembered it by putting my shirt on this morning, and I'm going to tell you a little story about the shirt. And the name of it is The Lost Squadron, Glacier Girl. And this whole story is about Glacier Girl and the long, long process of finding this plane. But a bunch of my friends, customers, people I've known all my life, retrieved this train from Greenland, Iceland. They were over there, year and a half, 2 years, back and forth, digging this plane out of the ice. It was like 248 feet down into the ice. And a bunch of people from our area went and worked on it. And some of my best friends, Bob and Kathy, which, you know, we've all known these people for all our life, that Bob worked on the plane for 11 years. And it was just amazing. And the whole town got involved in it because it was just an amazing, very, very expensive thing to do. Roy Schaffner, who is was the one to retrieve. He was the one decided to do this. And he's him and his family, sons, and just tons of groups of people with him went down there and retrieved this. But I'm going to give you a little information on it, and I'm going to take you to where the hangar, where they're at. I don't know if it's open today or we can go in it, which it won't be there today because they take it to museums and fly it. And another little part of it is that you know, the town spent thousands and thousands of dollars to build a beautiful hangar to put this plane in. And it was just a big thing for a very small town. So today's going to be about the Lost Squadron, Glacier Girl, and they named her. They named the plane Glacier Girl, and that was the big thing here for a long time. Everybody talked about Glacier Girl. All right, I'll take you to the hangar. Just a little information about the Lost Squadron, the Glacier Girl, so you get a little insight on what took place here. Okay, the Lost Squadron, the Glacier Girl. It was a World War II fighter plane, once under hundreds of feet of snow and ice in Greenland, and it is back in mission after 65 years. The crew of the Lost Squadron were all rescued, all of them, but the planes were left behind. They sank into the river of ice and snow piled on top of them for decades. They were left untouched until an expedition led by Roy Schaffner and 40 people went in the spring of 1992. They barreled through 268 feet of ice to reach the P38. The plane, which had 52-foot wingspan, was extracted piece by piece and brought up through a 4-foot wide tunnel. And it took flight again in October 2002. Now guys, when this took flight, this was better than actually the 4th of July for our town. I mean, this was a big thing for our little town. And they built hangars, and they had a museum. And when it flew, which Steve, one of the guys that worked on it through the whole thing, which flew the plane, and there was only one pilot that is still alive. I think his name was Brian. Out of the 11 that were rescued, he come to watch it. And they flew it I mean, I guess they kept it here a week, and they did air shows with different planes. But I'm going to show you little clips and pieces of some of the air shows. But when it went up, our hearts sunk. And everybody was involved in this. We all sewed shirts, we had bomber jackets, and we knew all the people actually that went to Greenland to dig it up. And Bob, one of the main guys that actually, well, he was the main guy that pieced and put it together for 11 years. They were just awesome friends of ours. And him and his wife, Kathy, worked on it. I mean, they were there 11 years. Kathy died this year, which was so sad. And they were pretty young people. I mean, very young. But Bob has moved away since then. He's in Texas. And Roy Schaffner has passed away, the guy that led the expedition, and his family still lives in this town. But I wanted to give you a little bit of information before I showed you the Glacier Girl. And we just loved it. It was an experience to be involved in our town. But here we go. thank you for sticking around, listening to the story of the Lost Squadron, the P38 Glacier Girl. And it was just an exciting time when 40 of those guys actually went on that expedition and recovered that plane. Well, no, girls, from Greenland through 268 feet of ice. And it was just, it was really a miracle to actually recover that and piece it back together, and actually being able to know all these guys and see them put it together. And I just thought it'd be a neat little interesting story of Glacier Girl. All right, guys, have a good day.